Hello everyone. I want to talk again about the promises of God and how amazing the promises of God are, really. And there's a story in Numbers 21, and it's a story about Israel, and it's in Numbers 21 verse 17, and you can read it there. But it talks about Israel coming to a difficult place where they had the promises of God in their lives. They had dreams they wanted to accomplish, but problems they were hoping to turn around. And we know that when God puts a promise in our hearts, sometimes it seems impossible and it feels like it's never going to change. It feels like life is just this situation is impossible to change. And this is what happened with Israel in Numbers 21. They were in a hot, barren desert, desperate for the necessities of life we take for granted, but they were desperate just for water, just to survive in this desert, in this wilderness. And they came upon an old well, an old dried up well. And when it looked impossible, what they started to do was key. What they started to do at that time is important for us to understand. It's a great lesson to us in our lives and in our impossible situations that we face, in our dreams that we feel can never be accomplished. Because this is what happened when it seemed impossible. Instead of complaining, here's what they did. They began to sing. It sounds amazing, doesn't it? They began to sing. In other words, they didn't turn down the praise. They turned up the praise. They began to sing, and this is what they sang to this dried up well. They started to sing, spring up, oh well. What were they doing? Are they crazy? Are they mad? No, here's what they were doing. They were making a declaration of faith. Let me say it again. They were making a declaration of faith. They all sang to the promise over and over and over. Spring up, oh well. Spring up a well. The water that God had promised, the provision that God had promised, they began to sing to it. They all sang to the well of promise over and over again. Then suddenly something happened. You see, there's the key right there. They started to act in faith instead of fear. And they began to declare the promises of God over a dried up well. And this is what happened. Suddenly, the water began to flow. I'm telling you, suddenly the miracle happened. Suddenly God kicked in. Suddenly the promise and the dream started to come into fruition, and the water began to flow. Promises God has put in your heart right now. Circumstances, we may say to the circumstance, listen, it feels like it's never going to happen. But we're here to do what Israel did in those days, spring up. Well, we're here to speak and to sing over our dead situations, impossible situations. And when we do, here's what happens. Life begins to flow out of the impossible. Suddenly it becomes possible. Suddenly it becomes a reality. Suddenly you began to see the promise taking place right before your eyes. Your circumstances may say it's never going to happen. You have to do what Israel did. You have to do what the Bible tells us to do. Turn up the praise. Come on, turn up the praise. Paul did it and Silas in the prison cell in Acts 16. In a prison cell, beaten up, in chains. They began to sing at the midnight hour, and God came in and rescued them, delivered them, as they begin to sing the song of faith. You see, I want you to know something. The song of faith is so important. You have to do what they did. You have to sing over your promise, your praise, your thanksgiving, and your declaration of faith are what causes healing to take place, what's caused abundance to take place, what causes breakthrough to spring up in your life. Sometimes we're waiting on God, but you know what the truth is? He's waiting on us. Why don't we start calling forth those promises that he's put in our hearts today? Father, I just thank you. We're going to pray. Father, I just thank you for your promises over our lives. I thank you that you're a good God. I thank you that even when things seem impossible, Father, we can decide to act in faith, and we can decide to declare your word, decide to sing the song of God over our lives, and you've put in our hearts our dreams to accomplish. Lord, teach us to declare faith in situations of impossibility. Lord, I thank you that you're the God of the breakthrough. So we say, spring up, oh well, in our lives, in Jesus' mighty name. Be blessed. Have a great day.